Thank you for joining us, sir. My first question to you is when we talk about artificial intelligence in the finance function, especially, where do you see the opportunity and what are some of the challenges that you see with AI?
See, I think in our thought process, I've been kind of traveling around a lot, exploring the finance as a piece because what we're realizing is that finance is probably going to be last of the frontiers to be conquered within the business functions. Why? Because there is so much of a challenge around the data itself. First of all, which does not exist in one place. It's sitting in silos and all. And the second thing is there is so much of a tribal knowledge that still sits with the finance team even before a AI comes into picture, right? So I think for us, the first thing that we need to solve for is the data and the context around the data, right? Only if these two frontiers are crossed is when we'll be actually able to be in a position to leverage AI, right? And even then, technically, the math I think about from the setup perspective is it's going to be 60% kind of a SaaS where you can put in automation. 20% is going to be still human because the tribal knowledge is going to take time to come in. But the remaining gap in between, that 20%, is actually what will be filled with AI, where the human knowledge is not so much required, but regular SaaS is also not able to handle. So, that's how the AI world will evolve. But I think, still long way to go for us.
So, if the finance function was to be built from scratch, what is one thing that you would like to remove?
So I always go back to first principles, right? So I think the foundation for finance is where the transaction processing happens. So you need to first sort out that how your transaction processing happen and what's the kind of control you have there, right? If you start to build from analytics first, reporting second, compliance third, and then you look at transaction processing, it's going to be like a inverted pyramid, right? So I think every finance leader needs to kind of think about this, that first solidify the foundation layer where the transaction processing happens, and from there then you start to build on top of it that okay, now let's get to the basic reporting structures, then get to the analytics, and the AI can parallelly actually keep adding to each of these layers. How effectively do I work on the transaction processing? How effectively do I work on the reporting? How effectively I do the analytics, right? So this is how the structure will be. But if you take it other way around, it'll just topple, right? So I think that is something that people need to kind of pay more attention. It's dirty world. Transaction processing is not very sexy, but you need to fix that first before you can build this pyramid. Otherwise, it's just a house of cards.
Right. Can you tell us how do you envision the road from CFO to a CEO?
Oh, very interesting. So I think there are some prerequisite that needs to be fixed first, because most of the time the CFOs, even though they are supposed to be the business partner, the strategic thought process and mind behind the business, a lot of their time actually goes into everyday stuff, right? So I think being able to first take care of that and actually offload it from their plate via automation, via right kind of a team in place. Once you've been able to do that, is when actually you can start focusing on the business. And I think I always encourage, loved, and that's what I'm doing today as well, is that every CFO should be in sales or operations for 75% of their time, right? So that they actually get closer to the business. And once you've got those two functions kind of, sorted, your path to CEO becomes much, easier and much more contextual as well, because you understand the pulse of the business. You already have a good finance background. You understand how the blood flows. But then these are the muscles and the arms that you need to still build for you to be on a path to a CEO. And fortunately, I am a CFO in the past, and now I'm a CEO. So I think it's coming from practical and personal experience.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Also, one last question. What is one overarching trend that you see in the finance function for 2026?
So I think one of the biggest thing that is happening not just in finance, but finance is like a recipient of this wave, is that the business models, right? Like how you sell, how you deliver, how you collect is constantly evolving, right? So think about this way, right? Like when you talk about, social commerce, TikTok, right? Probably a less than 2 years old phenomena. You talk about fulfillment side, omni-channel. Most of the largest of the companies are still figuring it out. What's the best way to, handle omni-channel? talk about collection, BNPL is still relatively new phenomena, probably 3-4 years. Like we've never seen a place where you literally walk in the store, I want to buy this, and then okay, I don't have money. Let me also borrow at the same time, right? Hasn't happened before. So the way this ecosystem is evolving continuously, whether it is about goods, whether it's about services, right? That is leading to a lot of changes at the finance front. Right, the finance operations is becoming more and more and more complex. Reconciliation is becoming a big issue. Every transaction level, depending on this, your revenue, cost, and cash flows could be different. You change one thing, it changes, right? So that evolution is what is kind of creating challenges for the CFOs, for the finance function in general. And I think this will continue to evolve. So you need to be able to be in a dynamic setup where your tech stack, your solutions, etc., are actually able to keep up the pace with these business model changes, right? For example, even SaaS companies for that matter, most of them used to be on a license basis earlier. Now they are moving on from pure play seat basis, license basis to more of a usage based. That's a big change in the way your revenue works, the big way your pricing will work, and so on and so forth. Right. So these changing business models, what is the biggest challenge for the finance folks going forward, probably 26, maybe even 27. And CFO is gonna be on the forefront if they want to be, because again, they understand this very well. But I think if not, they will struggle.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
Pleasure
you.
is mine. Thank you very much.